this is Jill Ciminillo with Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk, and today I'm here with something a little bit different. This is the 2023 Genesis GV70, but it's electrified. So they're calling it the Electrified GV70, which means it's all electric. And what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to tell you 5 good things, I'm going to tell you 5 bad things, and then we're going to tell you some brief driving impressions. So let's take a closer look right now. All right, before I get into the 5 good things and 5 bad things, I just want to do a quick look at the exterior and interior and tell you the 3 big differences that I see between this vehicle and the gasoline model. So first off, look at this rear bumper. There are no tailpipes. So this right here is going to be completely different on the electrified version. And the really interesting thing that you'll notice is the fact that Genesis doesn't really give you any electrified badging. The only way you're going to tell that this is not the gas model is by looking for those tailpipes. They're not there. And then if you move around to the front, you'll notice this right here, which is where your charging panel is. And the fact that you don't have a real grille is another tell to the fact that this is an electric vehicle. And when you step inside, the big difference is going to be this steering wheel. This is a different steering wheel than you see in the gasoline model. You've got more buttons and dials over here. You have this 3D looking area right here that houses the horn and the airbag. So those are the 3 primary differences I see between the gas and the electric vehicles. Let's get into those good things and bad things. First up on the like list, I want to start with the overall materials and quality of this vehicle, because this is really well put together. You have nice textures and you have really nice finishing features, from the stitching to the soft leather to the brushed metal that you're going to see on this door panel. Everything is very well finished and well done, and I think it looks really good. Now, while I would not choose this white interior for myself, I think it looks really nice, and somebody who's on the cleaner side of things would have no problems with this. With the materials, and by the way, this is just really soft and pettable, along with the materials, Genesis has done an excellent job of really making sure this vehicle is quiet. So they've done some excellent work with the noise, vibration, and harshness, and they have incorporated a lot of insulation and quieting materials so that when you are sitting in this vehicle, you don't get a lot of ambient noise from what is going on around you. And that's really important in an electric vehicle because you don't have any rumble of the engine noise covering up some of those sounds. We drove without the radio the entire way, and yeah, that's just really quiet and peaceful. The other thing that I really like, so this is thing number 3 on my like list, is going to be the fact that you have this as a touchscreen. So you can swipe through these materials and you can get your different menu items. You know, depending on what you're looking for, you can touch and you can get to the different items pretty easily just through touching the screen. I will point out this is a little bit far away, but I like the fact that you have the touch screen, but you do also have the redundant touch controller, so if you don't feel like making the reach, you can use this instead. Now we are going to move into the back seat for the 4th thing on my like list, and that is going to be the fact that you have rear climate controls back here, and you have heated seats available. So the heated seats aren't going to be standard on the base trim, but they are available with the up-level trims, and I really like that. You also have some USB-A charge ports back here. So I like all of those things. Rear climate controls, super important. While I'm sitting back here, I'm also just going to point out this ambient lighting is pretty cool. This was not something I was going to put on my like list, but I'm going to add this as a 4A because you can kind of see it here. You can see it coming down the side here, and then it transfers into the back, and yeah, it looks pretty cool. We'll make that a solid 4A. For the final thing on my like list, we have to open up the rear hatch. And in order to do that, we'll make this 5A. You press this button right there to open the rear hatch. And then once you have access to the rear, you will see there really isn't any compromise in terms of space back here. You probably lose a little bit on the floor storage, but they've done a really good job that even though this is an electric vehicle, you still have some really good storage and usable space back here, and you can fold flat these seats for even more. And when you pull this up, I will say you do not have a spare tire under here. You have an inflator kit, but you have a place to store that screen that will hide your stuff. So you can just pop it in here, hide your stuff when you're in an urban environment. And I like all of that. I'll be honest, I like a lot more about the Electrified GV70, but since I'm only giving you 5 things, that's just a place to start. Now we're moving on to the bad things. All right, we are coming back inside to kick off my do not like list, and I'm just going to start right here with the range. This vehicle has 236 miles of range total. That is what you get, period, with this vehicle, and I feel like in 2023, this is not enough range for somebody to have this as their only vehicle. If I were going to own a vehicle with anything less than 300 miles of range, this would be my second vehicle, and this is kind of pricey for it to be somebody's second vehicle, IMHO. So I don't like the range. So I'm gonna make that thing number 1 on my list that I don't like. That's what you get. So thing number 2 also has to do with this environment. You do not have wireless Apple CarPlay on this vehicle. So you have to wire in right here, and then your CarPlay Android Auto will project on the screen. But that isn't necessarily my problem. What I don't like about this is the fact that, yeah, you have wireless charging right here. So why do you have wireless charging when you don't have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto? This is an unnecessary thing. Like, do away with that if you're gonna have wired in CarPlay and Auto, because who's gonna use the charger if you have to wire in for your CarPlay? That just, one of my biggest pet peeves. I kind of hate it. Another thing that I don't like, and I mentioned this a little bit on my like list because I do like the fact that you have this as a touchscreen, but if I'm driving and I need to do something, so we had Google Maps that we were using for our instruction to get from point A to point B to point C, and they programmed in waypoints, and so that meant you had to reach forward to hit continue to go through your waypoint. Okay, yeah, you do have redundant controls. You could do this, but the one thing, and this is going to be the 4th thing on my do not like list, the one thing that I noticed my partner did, and I do this all the time, is instead of hitting this, he was trying to hit this to use the touch controller to control that. And so I don't really like the vertical stack of how this is laid out, because it makes it really easy for you to use this when you mean to shift gears, or to touch this when you're trying to use your touch controller. Now, nothing happened. I think he pressed the park button while we were on the highway and nothing happened, so it was fine. But the fact that these are laid out the way they are, it's just, and they're really similarly sized. Okay, they have different textures around the edge, but it just, I don't know. I don't like this layout. Probably something you'd get used to as an owner, but I made the mistake, my partner made the mistake, and yeah, we got confused here. Now, the final thing on my do not like list is going to be this right here. So when you hit this button, it turns on your iPedal. So you can see right here, it says that it's on, and what iPedal is supposed to do, I guess I should call this a paddle, not a button, but what iPedal is supposed to do is it effectively creates one pedal driving. But this one pedal driving is not terribly aggressive. So I really wanted it to be more aggressive and more present, And while you can go to a stop, so if you don't know what one pedal driving is, so you've got your foot on the accelerator and you literally just lift your foot on and off the accelerator to both speed up and slow down. And there are some systems that are a lot more aggressive and you can come to a complete stop a lot quicker. And I just found that this system isn't terribly aggressive. It's something that you'd have to get used to. I expected it to be a little bit more aggressive and didn't quite hit my stops every time and had to actually use the brake pedal. So I wish it were more aggressive, because that's kind of what I'm used to, and it allows you to stop a little bit more quickly just by using the accelerator. I found that I had to use the brake pedal a lot more than what I thought I would or should with a one pedal system. However, I like the fact that it's really easy to turn on, and I like the fact that it's really easy to turn off. So some electric vehicles don't have the option. It's either on or it's off, or they don't have it at all. So that in itself is well done. I just wish the iPedal was a little bit more aggressive than what it is. So that rounds out my do not like list. All right, so I have just been behind the wheel for a very brief time today in the electrified Genesis GV70, but I have to tell you, initial driving impressions are incredibly favorable. This does feel a little bit heavier than the gasoline version. It's not as nimble as the gasoline model is, but overall it does really well. And I have to tell you, I've been having a lot of fun on some of the twisty bits that we've been driving. And I will say, unfortunately, I've got some slow cars in front of me, but it does have boost mode, and that immediate acceleration that you get, the extra horsepower that you get from hitting the boost button. Let's see, we'll just do a little quick boost there. It's a lot of fun. I could see how that would not get old, and I would probably burn through all of my range very fast. So the one thing that I really don't like is going to be the range, because 236 is just, I mean, frankly, it's not going to be really enough to get me to and from Indianapolis without sweating buckets. And I'm looking for a vehicle that will at least get me to Lafayette in frigid weather, and I won't have to worry about charging. So that's the big thing that I don't like here. And yeah, I went through some other things as well. But in terms of ride of handling, this does really well. Handles the curves well, and really enjoying the adaptive suspension, which is standard on the electric version of the GV70, because what it's doing is it's scanning the road ahead of me, and it's looking for bumps, imperfections, speed bumps. Can't wait to test this in Chicago. And it kind of smooths out the ride a little bit. And we've experienced that a little bit because we've been driving on some roads that have potholes, and I've definitely noticed a difference, and it's pretty smooth. So, overall, if I had to sum this up pretty quickly, really like the Genesis Electrified GV70. Not quite sure the order you're supposed to put that electrified in, but I like the car, if the name is a little bit long. And I love the handling. I love the way it looks. I love the fact that there isn't any EV badging on here. And just generally, I think Genesis has done a great job inside and out with this vehicle, and give it more range, and this makes it a viable vehicle. So more to come, I'm sure. All right, that is all I have to say about the Genesis Electrified GV70 it's a 2023 model year. Be sure to check us out on the web at pickuptrucktalk.com, and I will see you down the road.